Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Usmakarang Sapariprajakatarya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your attendance and association. As we continue, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, verses 29 to 31, the passing away of Vishwadev. Om Adhyanatim Vandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shrutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Mastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Prem Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Piyusha Sarva Vedeka Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Loka Triparada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kali Dvando Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has risen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pathaya Premava Shasharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisance unto you by reading you and attain transcendental bliss. For your soul was rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madhikabandu Mat Sangim Madguru Mahadana Man Nisharaka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu Sadhu Tadahi Natini Chachataraka Anamunchakada Chinmam Premna Rikkatayospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, give us saintliness to the unsaintly, uplift the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest. Mahatma told, accompany pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yatonvayaditarata Charte Subhigna Swarat Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Varim Mridam Yata Vinimayo Yatrati Sargom Risha Damna Swena Sadani Rastakuakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. O my Lord, Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I made it upon Lord Shri Krishna because he's the absolute truth and the primary cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, destruction of manifested universes. He's directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he's independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by illusory representation of what is seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him, to the material universe is temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Pranopaicha Sabya Kalavasmin Yuge Janamanda Sumanda Matayo Mandabagya Patrata. The one in this iron age of Kali, men about short lives, the quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayana Namaskritya Narachevam Naratamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. For reciting Srimad Bhagavatam is the very means of conquest. One should offer respectful obedience unto the personality of God and Narayan, unto Narayan, which is the supermost human being, and Mother Saraswati, goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savapum saparo dharmo yato bhaktira dokshaja hituka pratyata yatma suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation dharma of all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service. Under the transcendental Lord, such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted, completely satisfying the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatyu Sevairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahitukam. By rendering devotional service under the personality of God, Shri Krishna, one immediate request causes knowledge and detachment from the world. Vedanti tat vidas tattam yat gnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth calls non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shru Shru Shroshadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevanat. Both wise born sages, by serving those devotees are completely free from all vice. Great service is done. By such service, one gains a friend for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranutam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Retyam Stoya Bhadrani Vidunuti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of God, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and a benefactor, truthful devotee, cleanses desire from material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatutama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki. By regular attendance and classes in Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service under the personality of Godhead, whose praise or transcendental song is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We continue Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna, the devotees, let us cover some feedback, even though it's been a few weeks since we had our Bhagavatam class. So verses 25 to 28, what can you recollect, what can you remember from those sets of verses where Krishna brought the Pandavas, especially Yudhishthira Maharaj, to be counseled by Bhishmadev. He wanted to glorify Bhishmadev, and Bhishmadev received millions of guests through his wonderful words, offering of words, and he started to counsel Yudhishthira Maharaj on very, very pertinent and important subject matters, which Srila Prabhupada extensively elaborates in his purports. So what could you remember, what you really took home? It's 2 weeks, so what you can remember meant that was really a powerful point that stuck with you. So Mother Archana Siddhi says, okay, so Hemavati Radhika says, first, worship of Krishna's devotee is more valuable than worship of Krishna. Yes, it's a very interesting perspective. Many people also misunderstand that perspective. Some people think, okay, so I only need to worship the devotees and that's it. Others think that if I just worship Krishna, that's good enough. But in Krishna consciousness, worshiping those things which are dear to Krishna is also worship of Krishna. And the devotees, especially the pure devotees, are very dear to Krishna. And therefore, by worshiping them, honoring them, serving them, glorifying them, hearing about their glories, is also Krishna consciousness. Makes us more Krishna conscious. Why? Because they are 100% connected to Krishna. That is what makes them pure devotees. They are 100% dedicated, surrendered to Krishna. So and because they are perfect, transparent via media, when we remember them, when we serve them, we actually serving and remembering Krishna. Prabhupada gives the example of mother who is cleaning the house and she sees the daughter's shoes, and immediately her mind goes to her daughter because of that love. So like that, when we think of Srila Prabhupada, we cannot fail to think of Krishna, because Prabhupada was completely Krishna conscious. So when we think of Prabhupada, we're basically thinking of Krishna. Mother Archana Siddhi says, the tongue is the most difficult to control. Do not judge devotees by the external, because we do not know who they are. We should be very careful. Let Krishna be the judge. Our goal is to offer all respects to others. Yes. The spiritual master The managers, they may have that service to look at improvement opportunities, to look at where they can guide and encourage with love the devotees. But otherwise, as a general practitioner, we have to cultivate the consciousness of let Krishna be the judge. And our focus should be to become Krishna conscious. So that is a very, very important principle and point. Otherwise, we get caught up in taking Krishna's position and judging and trying to do Krishna's service. In most cases, we mess up. So let Krishna do the judging, let us do the respecting and the serving, and let us focus on our own Krishna consciousness. The environment and those in the environment can also become obstacles to keep us entangled. So one needs to be very, very intelligent to understand and how to associate so that one can amplify and advance in one's Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, that same environment can dampen and can distract one from the path. Nalini Kanta says, an appealing tone, not what you say, but how you say it. We see how Bhishmadev spoke in this tone attracted so many to come and hear. Wonderful point as well. It's not what you say, but how you say. Naturally, what you say is important, but more important is how you say it, the tone. And the tone generally reflects one's intention, reflects one's inner consciousness, inner state of heart. If one is angry, that tone will be angry. If one is speaking out of love, then that will come through the tone. Sharing necessary, please accept my obeisances and appreciation. Everything that we have, the ability, energy is all borrowed. It is all from Radha and Krishna, and we should utilize everything in their service. The Vedas are perfect knowledge coming from Krishna. The more we realize this point, the more our focus, our mission, our purpose, the clarity in life, what we need to do, all becomes very, very easy and aligned. Because we clearly understand that whatever I have, whatever is given to me, whatever abilities I have, they are not mine. They don't belong to me. They're actually Krishna's. I myself belong to Krishna. So if I belong to Krishna, the material energy belongs to Krishna. That means everything belongs to Krishna. Therefore, everything should be employed in his service. And when you do that, you will automatically be perfectly situated and be happy. People complicate this whole science of happiness. You find thousands and thousands of books written on happiness. And practically every single one of them miss the point. So many steps to be happy, do this, do that. And you find that very few come to the proper conclusion of how to be happy. If you are not aligned to your nature, if you are not doing what you meant to do, then you can never be happy. One motivational speaker, he gave the example, it's like a cake. So you have a carob cake. Now, if you take a piece of the carob cake, that piece of the carob cake is a piece of a carob cake. It's part of the whole. It can't be anything but a carob cake or piece of the carob cake because it came from the carob cake. Can't be a carrot cake or a sponge cake or a lemon cake. No, it's a carob cake because why? The whole dictates its nature. So we are part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, our nature is dictated by Krishna. And anything outside that is misidentification, misalignment. And because of that misalignment, you will be uneasy. And as soon as you are uneasy, therefore you will be distressed. You will be diseased. You will feel discomfort. You will be discouraged. You will be disempowered. All because you are out of alignment in terms of your identity. So Prabhupada has given us the knowledge to align ourselves perfectly. As soon as we do that, as soon as we understand that, we have a very clear purpose of our life and what we need to do. And the Vedas are perfect. The more we realize this, it becomes very easy. Whatever the Vedas say, we follow. Shamananda Prabhu says, the great personalities like Bhishma and Srila Prabhupada, even though on the deathbed, are fully Krishna conscious and able to give sound advice to the world. And we're going to be hearing that sound advice. Very pertinent, very important, very practical. Most people say, oh yes, you know, the Vedas, spiritual life is not practical. Let's see how practical the lesson is going to be in today's verses. 9 qualification, it's the 9 qualification of civilized human being. Yes, to not be angry, to not lie. Amazing qualities. And Srila Prabhupada explained these are preliminary. They're not even very true. They're just preliminary. There's actually 30 qualities of civilized human beings which we'll cover. So these are pre. Madhachani says, Varnasham is not to bind us, but to liberate us, and it is prescribed for civilized men. 50% of Srila Prabhupada's work that was undone is this. When we get our society in place, from a spiritual perspective, Brahmanical perspective, then we can start implementing the Varnasham system. A lot of service in that field that needs to be done. So we have Prabhu Galaxy 830. You can right click on your move. If you, those of you that have your phone names, that's also called misidentification. Just right click on more, put rename and put your name there. It's closer to your true identity. So here's a very important principle, right? Practical lesson. I would rather, instead of, we don't want to go further away from our identity. We want to go closer away to our identity. So instead of now going to an identity that's referring to a cell phone, let the identity be to this material body. And then even if you have a name, everybody has a name, but instead of now calling yourself, like in my case, Naresh, right? I would rather call myself Nishingananda Das, at least in this forum, right? At work, it may be a different story, but in this forum, I can give my spiritual name. Because why? I'm now moving closer to Krishna. And somebody may think, yeah, such a simple thing, right? I mean, big deal. Why even bother? So the key is, the more you begin to go closer to your true identity consciously, it goes deeper subconsciously. And when it goes deeper subconsciously, now you become consciously competent from a spiritual perspective, that now your identity on the subconscious level resonates with your identity on the conscious level. Most people who are spiritual practitioners, they don't even resonate on the frequency that I'm a spiritualist, that I'm a devotee. Why? because they may know and think and like to be a devotee, but subconsciously that's not resonating. And the reason it's not resonating is because we haven't allowed the practices to go deeper and deeper and deeper into our conscious being, so that I feel, I resonate, I experience, and I live on the platform that I'm a devotee first, and everything else is secondary. So it's a good practice to always try to bring our spiritual identity first and foremost. So that becomes our remembrance. In fact, when you get initiated, and especially like if you're living in the temple, as I said, outside, in terms of the working environment, relating with people, you use your ID name. But generally in the temple, you'll find that, let's say if somebody is initiated, and when you call them by their previous karmi name, they'll say, who's that? Like if somebody says, Naresh Prabhu, then they'll say, who's that? That's X, he's dead. Naresh is dead. Because I got a new birth. And that new birth has a new identity, Nishingananda Das. So that way your identity is very clear. That person that I was related to this body, that's history. I want to move forward. So it's a good practice. Right. So Lord Krishna glorifies his devotees. Bhishma Dev is on a deathbed covered by arrows all around. He is not even supposed to answer questions. True. But the Lord is, so that Bhishma Dev is to take, so the Lord is glorifying Bhishma Dev. And the same is the case with Mother Yashoda. Krishna takes the form of a child, so the Mother Yashoda, on the basis of her devotional service, is granted opportunity of glory by taking control of the Lord. This loving exchange of Krishna and devotees, wherein he takes subservient role of devotee, becomes big for their glory. So wonderful point. Krishna is always eternally glorified, but he loves to glorify his devotees. So in this specific chapter, we see how the Lord is exchanging, loving exchange with Bhishma Dev, and he's glorifying, he's amplifying the glory of Bhishma Dev. Mother Lesh says, Varnashram is coming from Shri Krishna, so it's perfect. It's designed so perfectly to attain spiritual perfection that at whatever stage of life you are and whatever duty you do, you spiritually advance spiritually, yes. And we see how in the material world we've deviated so far from true society, from true community, from true happiness for the citizens. Therefore, there's so much war, anger, conflict in society. Then Galaxy 830 says, Prabhupada says, yet body relationships is very pleasing and natural. The Lord is more pleased to be addressed as the son of Maj Nanda, the son of Yashoda, the lover of Radhavani. Yes. Krishna's got many names, and he prefers, even though you may call him by his direct name, which are related to his qualities, but when you call him by names related to his devotees, now what you did was you connected Krishna to his devotees. You allowed Krishna to remember his loving servants. And that gives Krishna even more pleasure. Jagannath Das Bauji Maharaj says, just like we can call Lord Chaitanya Gauranga, one who has golden limbs. But he says, if you want to attract the attention of Lord Chaitanya, then you say, Jai Sachinandan, Jai Sachisuta. When you connect Lord Chaitanya to Mother Sachi, then you attract his attention. So it's a very wonderful way to amplify Krishna's attention to us by connecting, just like we said, by pleasing the servants, Krishna becomes more pleased. So by calling Krishna's names related to his servants, Krishna becomes very pleased. Bafana Prabhu says, I realize also that Bhishma Dev's position is that of a very high authority, so high as above Vyasadeva. He's one of the closest to the Lord, 12 associates, yes, 11 Mahajans. He therefore is going to tell Yudhishthira very significant and confident information on basis of authority, not dogmatic. Very one, yes, important point. We are hearing not dogma. We are hearing the absolute truth coming down through the Lord, through his servants in different scenarios and situations. So the knowledge that we are receiving in these purports, they are eternal truths. They will never, ever change. And when we understand that, it also gives us great solace. It gives us great security. Because what we're learning, what we're digesting, what we're assimilating, what we're trying to apply will never, ever change. Therefore, if you learn Krishna consciousness, you'll find that every individual who practices Krishna consciousness, who's learning, who's absorbing Prabhupada's teachings, their life will become more and more solidified, more focused, more happy, just by the fact of digesting this information. It's not, I say, I think, my opinion. Srila Bhaktisinoda Maharaj said, as soon as somebody says, I think, or my opinion, then stop right there, go into the closet, complete the sentence and come out. Because we're not interested in your opinion. We're not interested in what you think. We are simply interested in Krishna's opinion and Krishna's thinking. The pure devotee's opinion and the pure devotee's thinking. Why? Because the pure devotees will only give us what is there in the Vedic scriptures, coming from Krishna, nothing else. So therefore, we are blessed to receive valuable instructions from one of Krishna's great servants or Mahajans, those great leaders. And let us now proceed to today's verses, where Bhishma Dev, who is one of the 12, you are right, not 11, 12 Mahajans, the 12 Mahajans that is going to reveal to us what we should do at the final moment called death. Now note, he is one of 12 Mahajans. He is a Mahajan. He is not just a pure devotee, but of the pure devotees, a very exalted pure devotee who knows the truth. He is perfectly qualified and is a pure devotee of the Lord. So we're going to learn from Bhishma Dev what we need to do when we are going to encounter that final moment of life, which we call death. Prabhupada says, it described that Bhishma Dev was one of the 8 Vasus. Please, can you share who the Vasus are and what their position is? So the 8 Vasus, they are part of the demigods. The demigods have different types of demigods. So the 8 Vasus are there. And Bhishma Dev was one of the 8 Vasus. They obviously committed a crime. They did something wrong that due to karma, they had to be punished and they had to take birth in this world. And Bhishma Dev also was one of them who took birth. And that's how Bhishma Dev became one of them. He was one of the Vasus that came to this earth to give us the teachings, give us Krishna consciousness, show us by his own example and then returned back to both the heavenly world and the spiritual world. 29. Dharmam pravadastasya sakala pratyupashtita yoginas chandamrityor vanchitas uttarayana. While Bhishmadev was describing occupational duties, the sun's course ran into the northern hemisphere. This period is described by mystics who die at their will. So it seems that the discussion between Bhishmadev and Yudhishthira Maharaj went on for a few days. And the sun was journeying on its course from south to northern hemisphere. Prabhupada in the purport says, the perfect yogis or mystics can leave the material body at their own sweet will at a suitable time and go to a suitable planet desired by them. In the Bhagavad Gita 8:24, it is said that self-realized souls have been exactly identified themselves with the interest of the Supreme. It is said that self-realized souls who have exactly identified themselves with the interest of the Supreme Lord can generally leave the material body during the time of the fiery god's effulgence and when the sun is in the northern horizon, and thus achieve the transcendental sky. In the Vedas, these times are considered auspicious for quitting the body, and they are taken advantage of by the expert mystics who have perfected the system. Perfection of yoga means attainment of such super mental states as to be able to leave the material body as desired. So this topic of leaving the body at an appropriate stage is generally related to yoga. So it's in the realm of yoga Mishra Bhakti. Krishna also discusses this in Bhagavad Gita, that the yogis are able to understand, they're able to perfect their life and know when to leave. They have that ability. So perfection of yoga, Prabhupada says, is when you have the ability, you have achieved supernatural state to leave the body as desired. We find in today's world, yoga is generally for exercising and for health. It's not about perfecting one's life so that one can leave one's body at the appropriate time. Yogis can also reach any planet within no time without a material vehicle. The yogis can reach the highest planetary system within a very short time, and this is impossible for materialists. Even attempting to reach the highest planet will take millions of years at a speed of millions of miles per hour. So no rocket will ever be engineered that can take you to the highest planet, because it's just not possible, firstly, and it's not the mechanism to reach those planets. But the yogis, using the process that the Lord created in the realm of yoga, are able to perfect the mechanistic methods of travel. This is a different science, and Bhishmadev knew well how to utilize it. He was just waiting for the suitable moment to quit his material body. And the golden opportunity arrived when he was instructing his noble grandson, the Pandavas. He thus prepared himself to quit his body before the exalted Lord Shri Krishna, the pious Pandavas, and the great sages headed by Bhagavan Vyas, etc., all great souls. Now, Bhishma Dev is a Mahajan. He is perfect. For the pure devotees of the Lord, there is no question of auspicious and inauspicious times of living. The pure devotees of the Lord, their life is auspicious. Every moment is auspicious. And because they are perfectly aligned to serving the Lord, whenever they live, it is auspicious. But to set an example, here we find Bhishma Dev is displaying his humility. Even though he's a pure devotee, and the Lord is even in front of him, he is still waiting for the opportune time to leave this world. He's thinking, I'm fallen, and therefore I need to make sure that the environment is suitable for me to live so that I can elevate my consciousness, elevate my life. And therefore I need to wait for Uttarayana. And when that constellation, when the sun is in that region of the northern hemisphere, then it will be appropriate for me to leave. So he wants to make sure that the environment is suitable for him to live. Yet he does not require that because he is a perfected, pure devotee of the Lord. He's a Mahajan. Now consider, I can use my example. I am not a Mahajan. I may be a Mahamuda, Maha-S-like. I may be Maha-Agyani, Maha-ignorant. And yet I may be thinking, I can die at any time. I don't need to worry about appropriate time. I don't need to worry about appropriate environment. This is the contradictory nature of people in this world. Bhishma Dev is perfect, yet he's displaying the humility that I want to make sure the environment is perfect. So the lesson is we want to make sure that the environment that we leave this world in is perfect for us. It's conducive for us. It's auspicious for us. Therefore, Bhishma Dev is preparing. And we're going to be touching on this word preparing. He prepared himself to quit his body. The question we need to ask, are we preparing to quit this body? Or is it not even in the focus? Because every single moment should be preparation for leaving this body. Bhishma Dev had an upper hand. His upper hand was he could leave at will. We unfortunately don't have an upper hand. We could leave at any time. Let me rephrase that. We could be forced to leave at any time. Or our leaving is connected and dependent on the number of breaths we have been allocated when we came into this world, according to our past. So according to our past, we have been allocated number of breaths. As soon as those breaths expire, when I take my last breath, that's the final moment of me in this body. And I will have to leave this body. I will have to quit this body. Now, when is that time? I don't know. And because I don't know, I should be even more prepared for that final moment. So the lesson we're learning here through Bhishma Dev is we should be prepared. We should be conscious about the final moment of life, which is death. Now consider Srimad Bhagavatam. From the beginning, right now we're in the first canto. Right in the beginning, we are hearing about Bhishmadev passing away. We are hearing about the moment of death. Then if you go in the middle of the Bhagavatam, we hear about Ajamil dying. And then if you go to the end of the Bhagavatam, we hear about Maharaj Parikshit dying. And in between, we have so many souls, pure devotees, lessons of death. Jad Bharat, Vritasura, so many, Dhruva Maharaj. So many great personalities leaving this world. So the Bhagavatam is very much focusing our attention on this moment of death. Yes, it's glorious. We celebrate birthdays and we come into this world. We have the opportunity to practice spiritual life. But the focal point of everything culminates at the moment, at the time of death. And therefore, we must be prepared. Srila Prabhupada emphasizes this in many of his purports, that while we're on the ground, the pilot takes help on the ground, gets all the training, gets all the assistance on the ground. And when he flies, when he takes off, then there's no question of others helping him. Then he's on his own. Then whatever he has learned, he needs to apply. Similarly, all the association, everything we're learning, all our practices, our devotional activities, our chanting of the holy name of Krishna, all this is help to cultivate, to mold, to nurture, to focus for the time of death. So Bhagavatam is teaching us how to live in this world so that we can die perfectly. It's teaching us the art of dying. Because if you don't learn the art of dying, and you only learn the art of living, then you will keep dying. But if you learn the art of dying, which Srimad Bhagavatam is presenting, like Bhishmadev, is teaching us the principles of the art of dying. And when we master that, when we have learned and mastered that, we will never take birth again in this world, but transition to higher realms of experience and service. So the focus of the Bhagavatam, and this is going to be coming up again and again. Here we are seeing Bhishmadev. When we come to Ajamil, we'll hear about Ajamil's situation. Then we'll come to Maharaj Parikshit, we'll hear about his situation. And the similarity is they are all focused, connected, linked to Krishna. Ajamil was indirectly linking to Krishna and he got a benefit. And through that experience, he realized. Now, every one of us are going to die. Death means leaving this body. So everyone is going to leave this body. Nobody is going to dispute this fact. Every single one is going to leave this world. At the time of death, we're going to experience different. Our experience will be different according to our preparation. So as students, we should be prepared for the final examination, which is death. And because we don't know when the date of the examination is set, we should be prepared. Or at least we should know what we need to do. Because depending on the conviction, depending on how convinced we are, we would prepare. Remember, I made the point that consciously you know that you're going to die. But subconsciously, your belief system is, I'm going to live forever. And because of your subconscious belief system that you're going to live forever, it will override anything you do consciously, or it will basically allow you to procrastinate in terms of your conscious activities. You may, for example, say, okay, yeah, I'm going to die, therefore I need to prepare. And then you'll find after some time that urgent conscious thought becomes overpowered by your subconscious belief, and you just go back into the rat race. So that is why we need to really contemplate on these subject matters, so that it goes deeper into our psyche, to the extent that I can live my life like I'm going to die at any moment. Prabhupada said a materialist should live his life like he's never going to die. And a spiritualist should live his life like he's going to die this very moment. One time, Srila Prabhupada was flying in the plane with his servant, and the plane dropped. It's like because of the air turbulence, the plane practically dropped meters down very fast. People were thinking they're going to be dying. And when the plane settled, naturally, the servant was shaken up. And I looked at Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, yes, we can die at any moment. So we have to be prepared. And if you're not prepared as a student, when the final exam comes and you fail, well, you have to rewrite. You're going to come back to the world, to the material world. So we don't want to fail. We want to understand the urgency and the importance of remembering Krishna, to being prepared. And in this way, once we know that, we can sincerely try our best and leave the rest to Krishna. So here we find Bhishma Dev, he is making appropriate arrangements in terms of the environment, so that when the sun now is traveling from south to the northern hemisphere, Uttarayana, then he's now preparing to leave. There's a deeper meaning to Uttarayana. Uttarayana means, from an astrological perspective, when the sun is now moving from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere. But Uttarayana also means, Uttara means Mother Uttara, and Ayana, in whose womb. So Krishna, he entered into the womb of Mother Uttara. Therefore, his name is Uttarayana, that personality who's in the womb of Uttara. So when Bhishmadev is waiting for Uttarayana, it means he's waiting for Krishna to give him his audience. He's waiting for that important moment to see Krishna, to focus on Krishna, be absorbed on Krishna, his worshipful Lord. Death as a final exam, unfortunately, is not a wonderful experience. It's not like this little student here who's in a very happy environment. He's jolly and he's excited. Nope. Death, unfortunately, the experience at a time of death is very excruciating. It's explained that at the time of death, pain that one goes through is equivalent to 10,000 scorpions biting you at the same time. So you will be in excruciating pain. Your body will be in excruciating pain. Your life phase, you have 10 different life phases in your body. Now, I'm sure many of you had experienced when you have stomach cramps, bloating, you have to go to the bathroom. Just 1 or 2 life phases that are disturbed and you have gas issues, it can be excruciating, uncomfortable. What to talk about all 10 life phases are disturbed. Very challenging situation. Then Yamaraj, he comes with his assistants, or he sends his assistants, and you can see he has a rope in his hand. That rope, and you'll see even the picture, Yamadutas, you can see Yamadutas, they're pulling a Jamil. A Jamil, his body is here, but you can see they're pulling his subtle body with a rope. That's the same rope that Yamaraj has. They take that rope, they put the rope around your subtle body, and they yank you out. They yank the subtle body out, and because the soul is entrapped in the subtle body, you get yanked out. But because you are attached to this body, you don't want to be yanked out. You hold on. And because you hold on and they're pulling you out, there's a battle. There's friction. That's painful. So one experiences a very uncomfortable situation. What about your mind? Even if one is unconscious or in a coma, your mind is not switched off. Your mind is on full speed. And there's so many billions of thoughts, millions of thoughts that are running through. So one is fully conscious and experiencing this uncomfortable experience of death. Bhishmadev is teaching us we must prepare for this moment. Now let us hear how Bhishmadev is preparing for this very, very crucial final moment that very few people want to even talk about. If you go to your friend and say, let's talk about death, come, let's talk about death. They'll think, my God, such a bleak person. He's like, he wants to speak about death. So the modern education does not even worry about death. They don't speak about what happens. The Vedas extensively talk about how to live in this world, how to prepare for death, how to die, what happens after death. All this is detailed in so many of the scriptures. It's described that when we find in the Ramayana, it is mentioned when Vishwamitra came to see Dashrath Maharaj. When he came to greet Dashrath Maharaj, he didn't greet Dashrath Maharaj like, how are you? How's things? How's the family? How's the kingdom? No. He greeted Dashrath Maharaj, how is your preparation going for death? So they would always remind, how is your preparation going for death? Because if you are preparing for death, then you will be happy. Otherwise, that moment will be very, very challenging for many who are not prepared. So what should we do? What preparation should we consider? Let us hear what Bhishmadev, how Bhishmadev is going to reveal that to us through these verses. Text 30. Tadopashamritya gira sahasrana nir vimukta sangam mana adipurushe Krishna lasat pitapate chaturbhuje purastite militadrik vyadarayat. Thereupon, that man who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings and who fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men, stopped speaking and being completely freed from all bondage, withdrew his mind from everything else and fixed his wide open eyes upon the original personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, who stood before him, four-handed, dressed in yellow garments that glittered and shined. Krishna is standing before Bhishmadev, and everyone else is seeing Krishna two-handed. Bhishmadev is seeing Chaturbhuja unto the four-handed original Narayan, Purusha, just before Stita standing, Amalita's widespread trick vision. So he's seeing Chaturbhuja, he's seeing four-handed. Everybody else is seeing two-handed. So Krishna is reciprocating with Bhishmadev because of Bhishmadev's intention, his desire. If you're not even desiring to prepare for the final moment, then why would Krishna even want to help you? Prabhupada said, God helps those who help themselves. So Bhishmadev's showing that because his intention is to prepare, he wants to die perfectly, Krishna will definitely assist. So Krishna's beautiful is compassionately appearing in four-handed, because that is Bhishmadev's Ishtadev, that is Bhishmadev's worshipful Lord, four-handed Narayan. Now, before we go into the purport, I like to read the first sentence, and then I'll explain a little, and then we'll go through Prabhupada's purport. Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita 8.5.15. Prabhupada says, in the momentous hour of leaving his material body, Bhishmadev set the glorious example concerning the important function of the human form of life. This is the most momentous hour, the most important hour, the most important moment of your human form of life. Most people consider birthday to be their most important hour or moment, or wedding, or some anniversary. No, death is the most important moment of your life. Why? Because death dictates your next destination. It's amazing how in every facet of life, people prepare for the future. You bring up the child in a healthy way because you want the child to have a healthy future, healthy body. You send the child to school because you want to educate the child so that the child can get a good job. Then you want the child to get a good job so that the child can get good income, so the child can get a good family. So in this way, we always consider the future, but it's amazing how that future terminates and nobody even worries about what happens after death. I'm married, I got children, and now I'm working, and I continue, and I get old, and nobody even thinks, what then? So therefore, Prabhupada is making very clear, Bhishmadev is setting the glorious example. What must each and every one of us do when we come to this final moment of death, which is an important function for this human form of life? It's Krishna's way of helping us to elevate or to digress. So we have to take advantage. Now, in this verse, Bhishma Dev is glorified by Sahasrani, Bhishma Dev, who was expert in thousands of sciences and arts. We can learn a very, very important point from this. Bhishma Dev, he was such an exemplary counselor. He was such an exemplary personality. We know that when he appeared, Mother Ganga told Shantanu that you can't keep him for now. I'll take him to the heavenly planets and we'll get him trained. And then at the appropriate time, I'll bring him. So Bhishma Dev got trained by the most excellent teachers in all the different sciences and arts. It wasn't like he was, just born with the gifts. No, he put in the effort. He went to school, he learned, and he became a valuable personality to help thousands in so many areas. Sahasrani. So what does this tell us? What does this imply? It means we must continuously add value into our own lives. Continuously add value in your own life so you can become valuable. Now, adding value in your life constantly, improving yourself, adding more value allows you to be able to become valuable and serve others, serve the mission, serve Srila Prabhupada, serve Krishna, serve the devotees. Value can increase in different ways. The more you increase your character, the more valuable you become. Find in this world, to find people of character, it's very rare. Therefore, when you have values and character, naturally people will consider you more valuable. Even in a work environment, if you have certain traits of respect, of truthfulness, etc., you'll be engaged more than others who lack that character, that value system. So if we increase character, we increase value. Then we can increase our competences. So whatever abilities you want to cultivate, you want to serve through, try to master those, try to improve or try to add those skill sets. So learn different skill sets that you can offer in service to Krishna. And the third way is you may have certain skill sets, you may be expert in certain things, try to fine tune that, try to increase the capacity of that. And this goes both with material skills and spiritual. So for example, you can even take it from a spiritual perspective. You're chanting. So you're chanting, now try to increase the quality of the chanting, that capacity of the chanting. You like to do certain services, increase the capacity of that service. So in these three ways, increasing our character, upskilling ourselves, learning different skills, devotional and material, and then increasing those different skills that we have. This way we become more and more valuable so that we can offer service to others. Now, Bhishma Dev was expert in thousands of sciences and arts. So we have to really consider how many sciences and arts am I expert at? Bhishma Dev knew thousands. So consider how valuable he was, how many people he counseled, how vast his experience, his knowledge was. Such a great personality. And we see here at the final moment, he was sharing that wisdom to Yudhishthira Maharaj, counseling, giving stories for every point that he's mentioning. So he was valuable. Now, what did he do? Vimukta Sangam, completely freed from everything. All those sciences, those arts, the knowledge, everything that he was offering himself in terms of value to people, now he detached himself from that, withdrew himself. He cut himself from that counseling, from that designation, from that knowledge, from that interaction, and simply focused his mind, fixed his eyes, wide open eyes, no blinking, focused on Krishna. Similarly, no matter what our situation is, no matter how experienced and skilled we are, no matter how valuable we are, no matter what we're offering to this world, in whatever situation, whatever identity we have assumed throughout our life, when it comes to this final moment, we must learn, following in the footsteps of Bhishmadev, to cut, to stop, to retract, and focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and be fixed in that. Do not let your activities throughout your life permeate and continue right to the final moment when you leave this world, because you will get a fail mark. Rather, understand the moment is coming. And if you get a notice, if you get a prior notice, Krishna can give prior notice. I know a few devotees that were given prior notice that they're leaving this world in different ways. Krishna may come, Krishna may give signs, etc. You get notice. So as soon as you get a notice that I'm leaving, you prepare. Think of Bhishmadev and retract, focus, absorb your focus, absorb your mind on Krishna. So Prabhupada continues the purport. The subject matter which attracts the dying man becomes the beginning of his next life. And this is why the moment of death is crucial. Because you don't want to attract the subject of suffering, of bondage, of birth, death, disease, and old age. You want to attract the subject of transcendence, of the kingdom of God, the spiritual world, where every day is a festival, every step is a dance, every word is a song. That's where you want to go, your original home. So you want to attract that subject. Prabhupada then says, therefore, if one is absorbed in the thoughts of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, he is sure to go back to Godhead without any doubt. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 8:5-15. So we want to become attached to remembering Krishna, chanting the holy name of Krishna. And that is why when someone is leaving this world, we arrange the environment they're in, like Vaikuntha, like Vrindavan, with the pictures, with the deities, with kirtan. And anyone that lives in that environment that's facilitated for them to think of that subject of the spiritual world of Krishna, then they're going back to Godhead. Not like there's no preparation and then the person leaves, he's not even focused, he's worried, he's so absorbed in his family and what he's leaving behind, what he didn't do, so many things. And then they say, no, he went back to Godhead. No. Your consciousness dictates where you're going, not somebody's statement. And we have to practice. So one of the practices, you can see Bhishma Dev here, he's living in the present. He's not daydreaming. He's living in the present. He's seeing the moment the sun is coming in an appropriate time. Krishna is there. He's living in the present and he's making the arrangements appropriate. So the more we cultivate the mode of goodness, the more we can also live in the present. Otherwise, in the mode of ignorance, we think of the past. Mode of passion, we keep thinking of the future. Mode of ignorance, oh, what happened? Mode of passion, oh, what will happen? You don't want to be concerned about what happened, and you don't want to be concerned about what will happen. You want to be concerned about the present, what is happening. And what is happening is you are dying. And what's the lesson the Bhagavatam and Bhishma Dev is teaching us? Focus on the subject matter that's going to take you back to the spiritual world. Otherwise, if you're not thinking of that subject matter and you're thinking of the alternative, which is this material world, and things related to the material world, your family, your friends, your work, your occupation, what you did, what you didn't do, you're coming back here. And we have gone through this billions and billions of times, and unfortunately we have failed. Just consider your son, your daughter, or a close friend who's in school fails one of the grades first time. You encourage him, okay, no problem, start, you can rewrite. He fails the second time, fails a third, fails a fourth, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, a billion times. I mean, you think, wow, this person is, he's dumb. We have failed billions and billions and billions of times, and that's why we're here in this world, in this material world. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada is revealing to us the secret of how to pass this final moment. You know, in school or even in university, you would get different study guides. Like when you're writing matric, then you have control papers. You have certain papers of or pass year papers, and you have model marks. So you can actually go through, even in university, they would do that. You know, first year, second year, third year, whatever year you're doing. So you have past papers, and you can actually go through the questions and then see whether you answered it correctly by going through the model answers. So Prabhupada is giving us the perfect questions and the perfect answers. How to perfect this art of dying. And if we grab this, if we absorb this, if we master this, just knowing this, you'll be happy. Because when the moment comes, you will be prepared. So now Prabhupada quotes 5 to 15 from Bhagavad Gita. And whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this, there is no doubt. This verse, Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, one who remembers me alone, 100%. Prabhupada was speaking on this verse. And Prabhupada was emphasizing, it was a whole program, Prabhupada was sitting there on the stage, on the Vyasasan, and emphasizing this verse. We have to remember Krishna only. Otherwise, Prabhupada said, you think of one Sunday, you have to come back. And Prabhupada saying, 100%, you have to think of me, think of Krishna. And the Prabhupada could see that devotees were a little despondent. When you think of Krishna only, that's not easy. The mind just flies to another. It's like, I'm sure many of you have experienced when you're chanting Hare Krishna. When you chant Hare Krishna, as soon as you pick up your bead bag, the mind starts to race everywhere and all over. It's the best, best place to make a list, best time to make a list. Before you chant, your mind is practically like dull. Where as soon as you pick up your beat back, wow, the mind is excited, thinks of everything else besides the holy name. So we have experience. The mind races. So to think of Krishna only at the time of death with all the disturbances that we talked about, your life has been disturbed, you've been pulled out, your attachments, what you did, what you didn't do, so many thoughts are flying through the mind. Very difficult to focus only on Krishna. If you did not practice and perfect the practice to be fully absorbed, transcended yourself, to focus on Krishna, it's going to be impossible. You can't just know that you have to think of Krishna at the time of death and think of Krishna, because there are other factors that's going to stop you, which we call conditioning. So Prabhupada is talking, and Prabhupada is noticing that devotees are not, they don't look very encouraged. So Prabhupada stopped the talk, ended the talk. And as soon as he ended the talk, he told the devotees, okay, if you're 90% Krishna conscious, Krishna will take you back to God. So Krishna says 100%. Prabhupada, due to his compassionate nature, he is praying to Krishna, my Lord, these are Kali Yuga citizens, these are Kali Yuga material. Bring it down, 90%. Just Krishna, please. And Krishna wants to please Prabhupada. Krishna wants to serve Prabhupada. So Prabhupada says 90%. Okay, at least not 100%. Pass mark has been dropped. In South Africa, they bring the pass mark. So Prabhupada dropped the pass mark for the final moment, the most momentous hour, death. Prabhupada dropped the pass mark. Then Prabhupada got off the Vyasasan. Prabhupada looked at his disciples. Prabhupada's love was oozing. And he said, okay, 80% Krishna conscious. If you 80% Krishna conscious, Krishna will take you back to God. Now the devotees are very happy, much more happier. At least there's some hope now. And then Prabhupada comes to the where he's going to go off the stage, and we know Prabhupada has a very regal look. He looks up in the sky, takes his chadar, throws his chadar over him, walks down with a very regal look, like the real ambassador from the spiritual world, and he says, okay, if you're 75% Krishna conscious, Krishna will take you back to God. And the devotees, Jai Srila Prabhupada, they were so happy. So Prabhupada has given us everything, has clarified what we need to do, and is even brought the mark down. What else do we want? What else do we want? If we are not serious after this, then there's very little hope. So we should be intelligent to understand our glorious gift and fortune that Srila Prabhupada has made for us. It's rare, but it's given freely for everyone. The devotees were discussing, Krishna says 100%, Prabhupada said 75%. How is it possible? And when they went to go ask Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada says, my Guru Maharaj is very, very merciful. He's got the back door key. So Prabhupada, he gave the credit to his spiritual master. So we are fortunate. Therefore, if we simply try to become serious in our Krishna consciousness, to be conscious of Krishna, then the hope to go back to the spiritual world, the probability of hitting high marks to return to the spiritual is very, very, very high because of Prabhupada's mercy. So we should try for 100. And even if you hit 75, up to 70, over 75, 90, 80, 75, Prabhupada and Krishna will take you back. And even if you go below 75, but Prabhupada and Krishna sees that you sincerely tried, you really put the effort, you really were serious. You really were conscious about becoming Krishna conscious. Through your actions, we could see that. Then they will do the needful. 6, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me, your mind intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. See, it's not about going into samadhi, going to the mountains and just thinking of Krishna. No, it's about doing your prescribed duties and thinking of Krishna. And how can you do your prescribed duty and think of Krishna? Everything you do, all your abilities, all your talents, offer it in the service of Krishna. Prabhupada used the word dovetailing. Engage it. So offer your mind, body, words, abilities, talents in the service of Krishna. In that way, when you connect it to Krishna, you start to become Krishna con. You start to Krishnatize everything. 8, he who meditates on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path. He, O Partha, Arjuna, is sure to reach me. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, who is always the person. He is luminous like the sun, being transcendental. He is beyond this material nature. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and in full devotion engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of God. So these last few verses are focusing on yoga. Even in yoga, the focus should be Krishna. As devotees, we simply have to chant Hare Krishna and focus our mind on Radha and Krishna. 11, persons learned in the Vedas who utter Omkar and who are great sages in the renounced order enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of God and quits his body, he will certainly reach the 2 planets. For one who remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. So the Lord is making very clear, this world is full of misery. Why would you want to come back? If this world is full of misery, we don't want to come back. We want to go back home, sweet home. So there's a process. And that process is a serious process. Therefore, we have to become serious about our Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada concludes, Sri Bhishmadev attained the perfection of quitting his body at will and was fortunate enough to have Lord Krishna, the object of his attention, personally present at the time of death. He therefore fixed his eyes upon him. He wanted to see Shri Krishna for a long time out of his spontaneous love for him. Because he was a pure devotee, he had very little to do with the detailed performance of yogic principles. Simply bhakti yoga is enough to bring about perfection. Therefore, the ardent desire of Bhishmadev was to see the person of Lord Krishna, most lovable object, and by the grace of the Lord, Shri Bhishmadev had this opportunity at the last stage of his prayer. So Bhishmadev's desire, Bhishmadev's practice, Bhishmadev's activities attracted Krishna. Krishna's attention, Krishna reciprocated, and he was able to perfect his life. We have to always begin with the end in mind. And the end is I'm going to die. Therefore, whatever activities I do throughout my life, we should begin those activities consciously thinking, will it help my end? If it's not going to help me leave this world in a Krishna conscious way, then reconsider those activities. But if that activity is going to help you, facilitate you living in a very Krishna conscious way, embrace it. In this way, we can gauge every single activity, whether it's an activity related to the mind, body, the material environment, or to the spiritual environment. But I can make that decision conscientiously in relation to whether it's going to help me at the momentous hour. Do not think that if you surrender your mind and senses in remembering Krishna, you will be a loser. You will not lose anything except bondage, frustration, and suffering. Bring Krishna in your life and you will be the most blessed. And in every situation, in every environment, in every part of your life, we have to see, am I increasing my Krishna consciousness by bringing Krishna or not? If I am, then that's conducive for perfection. Text 31. Visudaya ya darayan dara naya hatta subas tadiksha tadikshayeva sugata yudasmaram nivrita sarvendriya vritti vibramas ushtava janyam Vishrijan Janardanan. By pure meditation, looking at Lord Shri Krishna, he at once was freed from all material inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pains caused by the arrow wounds. Thus, all external activities of his senses at once stopped. And he prayed transcendently to the control of all living beings while quitting his material body. So I explained that the moment of death is very excruciating, very uncomfortable, very uneasy, very disturbing, very challenging. But when you apply yourself in a Krishna conscious way, you start to transcend that material environment or material situation. And on a transcendental platform, even though, like in Bhishmadev's case, his body is ridden with arrows, but because of his pure focus and meditation on the Lord, on the opposite side, what people don't see is this. We generally see the external, oh, shame, just see, they met in an accident, the body, there's blood, there's wounds, there's cuts, disease, etc., cancer, whatever. So we see the external. We don't see the inner consciousness and experience and exchange that the Lord is having with his devotees. Here is a perfect example of what may happen. In the case of Bhishmadev, he was absorbed on the Lord and he transcended all material inauspiciousness. All bodily pains, he transcended. He stopped all material activities. It was him as the pure servant and Krishna. And that loving exchange was what was experienced. And in that experience, that rasa, that exchange, he leaves this world and returns back to the spiritual world. So he's absorbed, he's focused, and he's going to now be offering prayers. Bhishmadev offers 11 prayers, which we're going to cover next week. So let us cover this purport. Prabhupada starts the purport, very, very interesting. Prabhupada says the material body is a gift of the material energy, technically called illusion. It's an interesting gift you have. You have an illusioned gift, a gift that is an illusion. Identification with the material body is due to forgetfulness of our eternal relationship with the Lord. For a pure devotee of the Lord like Bhishmadev, this illusion was at once removed as soon as the Lord arrived. Lord Krishna is like the sun, and the illusory external material energy is like darkness. In the presence of the sun, there is no possibility that darkness can stand. Therefore, just on the arrival of Lord Krishna, all material contamination was completely removed, and Bhishmadev was thus able to be transcendently situated by stopping the activities of the impure senses in collaboration with matter. The soul is originally pure, and so also the senses. But material contamination, by material contamination, the senses assume the role of imperfection and impurity. By a revival of contact with the Supreme Pure, Lord Krishna, the senses again become freed from material contamination. Bhishmadev attained all these transcendental conditions prior to his leaving the material body because of the presence of the Lord. The Lord is the controller and the benefactor of all living beings. That is the verdict of all Vedas. He is the supreme entity and the living entity amongst all eternal living beings. And he alone provides all the necessities for all kinds of living beings. Thus, he provided all facilities to fulfill the transcendental desire of his great devotee, Bhishmadev, who began to pray as follows. Prabhupada gave us the process of Krishna consciousness. If we practice the process of Krishna consciousness as prescribed by Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada said, even chanting, Prabhupada said there's an art to chanting. It's not just like I can just chant. No, there's an art to chanting. How you chanting is important. And how you chanting is going to impact you at the time of death. How you do everything in this world is going to impact you at the time of death. All your devotional service is going to impact you at the time of death. So we have to live very, very conscientiously. Because everything we do, everything we think, everything we say, everything we engage with is going to culminate at the time of death. Our focus is to make our consciousness Krishnatized. That is Krishna consciousness. Anything else is a Krishna consciousness. We don't want it. We want to avoid it. And each devotee has a unique and special relationship with Krishna. So as we practicing Krishna consciousness, we're developing a relationship with Krishna, and Krishna will reciprocate in that relationship accordingly, individually, unique. Here we are gaining the experience through the Bhagavatam of how the Lord is reciprocating with Bhishmadev. In everyone's case, it will be different. How you leave this world and how Krishna reciprocates, that is a personal exchange. That is a personal rasa. That's a personal relationship that you and Krishna have. No two individuals leave this world in exactly the same way, because no two individuals have the same relationship with Krishna. We see how Srila Prabhupada leaves this world because of his unique relationship with Krishna. But one thing is rest assured, if you are Krishna conscious, if you are serious about your Krishna conscious, if you understand the importance of being Krishna conscious, and how to live our life as Srila Prabhupada is guiding us through his Bhaktivedanta purpose, then you will never ever fear death. Your whole life is a preparation for death. So when death comes, you are ready. That examination, you are prepared. If a student knows that he's going to write an exam at the end of the year and he starts to prepare at the beginning of the year, by the time end of the year comes, he's ready. It's not like he's going to cramp everything in one night. No, he's going to be prepared. It's going to be easy. So like that, we should be prepared and preparing so that any moment comes, we simply give ourselves in the hands of Krishna. And if we are sincere, we put in the effort, we are praying, we are seeking blessings from the Vaishnavas, from the devotees, then when death comes, we simply close our eyes, thinking of Krishna, focusing on Krishna, open our eyes, and Krishna will be there with us in the spiritual world. So death is a wonderful opportunity for us to test and transition to the spiritual world. Or if Krishna so desire, maybe into another environment, another planet to continue his service, maybe into a planet where Srila Prabhupada is serving, whatever Krishna desires. But it will not be fearful. It will not be like a materialist who's dying, but a beautiful transition to greater service. Prabhupada, in relation to Krishna appearing to Bhishmadev, says, Krishna exhibited his causeless mercy when he was present at the departure of grandfather Bhishma. During the battle of Kurukshetra, Bhishmadev, the grandfather of Arjuna, was lying on the bed of arrows before departing from this mortal world. When Lord Krishna, Maha Yudhishthira, and others, Pandavas, approached Bhishmadev, he was very grateful to Lord Krishna, and he addressed the Brahmana military commander, Kripacharya Das, my dear Kripacharya, just see the wonderful causeless mercy of Lord Krishna. I am most unfortunate. I have no qualification. I was opposing Krishna's most intimate friend, Arjuna. I have even tried to kill him. I have so many disqualifications, and yet the Lord is still so kind that he has come to me. He has come to see me at the last point of my life. He is worshipable by all great sages, but still he is so merciful that he has come to see an abominable person like me. So we see the consciousness of this great Mahajan, Bhishmadev, pure devotee of the Lord, yet they don't think they're qualified. They don't think, oh yeah, just see me out. Death, no problem. Yeah, me, I'll pass mark. 100%, no problem. No, the humility, that I'm so fallen. I need all the help. That humility is true spiritual advancement. And therefore, we will take every opportunity, every help, because we understand that I need every help to become perfect and leave this world in a glorious way, following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. Vandrat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol. Are there any questions or comments? If you have any questions, any comments, please type in the chat. Next week, we will be covering Canto 1, Chapter 9, verses 32 to 42, 11 prayers of Bhishmadev. A great warrior on the battlefield of Kurukshetra is leaving his world in the most Krishna conscious way, and he's going to offer 11 prayers to the Lord who is personally present. And it's interesting, in relation to Bhishmadev, Krishna was personally present to Bhishmadev. For us, we are developing a relation with the Hare Krishna mantra. Krishna will be personally present in the form of the Hare Krishna mantra. Therefore, we have to develop a very strong relationship with Krishna in the form of the Hare Krishna mantra. Any questions, comments? Right, let's see. Shyamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, thanks for the very wonderful class with lots of lessons for us to take away. All glory to Bhishmadev for instructing us so nicely. What if one thinks of Srila Prabhupada when leaving the body? If one thinks of anyone or anything, consider a Jamil. A Jamil thought of his son by calling Narayan. So when he called Narayan, he wasn't even thinking of Krishna. He had no connection with the fact that I want to think of Krishna. No, he was thinking of his material son because of his material attachment. Yet, he got liberated. What to talk about thinking of Srila Prabhupada? That personality, who is a pure devotee of the Lord, who is the Senapati Bhakta of Krishna, who spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world, who gave 80 volumes of Krishna consciousness, who translated Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, who touched millions of souls, who had Krishna in his, who has Krishna in his heart, who was so compassionate to the living beings in this world, who wanted to liberate everyone in this world. If you think of Srila Prabhupada, you'll go back to the spiritual world, no doubt. So even becoming attached to Srila Prabhupada is becoming attached to Krishna. Hemavati Radhika says, absolutely fantastic class. Thanks for explaining so nicely, Prabhu. Hearing this beautiful subject matter and Bhishmadev just makes us appreciate Srila Prabhupada so much. He truly revealed such secrets. We would not have know anything without his mercy. Yes. Which other motivational speaker, mentor, teaches what Srila Prabhupada teaches that is so practical, so relevant, so pertinent, so important? You can have so many material mentors and nobody will tell you about how to leave this world. They'll teach you how to achieve some material success, but nobody will even touch on the subject. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to speak about death and how to die. Nobody even talks about that. So yes, we are indebted to Srila Prabhupada for revealing the truth that will guide and benedict all of us. Motherlash, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the Krishna Katha. My query, during the living entity's material world journey, we always have the super soul which accompanies us. What happens to the super soul at the point of death? So this subject will be coming up in the 2nd and 3rd canto. Briefly, the super soul is only with us as our friend and companion who witnesses and sanctions in this world when we have a material body. There is only one super soul who apparently appears in everyone's body and in between in everyone's heart and in between every atom. And the example that is given is when you go to a circus, there is a room that you go into with different mirrors. And if I walk into that room with different mirrors, then I see different shapes of me. Some tall, some short, some fat, some thin, some, all different forms. I'm sure when, we may have had experience when go to a circus. I remember when I was small, when I was a young boy, my father took me to the circus and we went into this one room with all the mirrors, and I could see it's one me, but all different forms and shapes. Now, if I take a stone and break one of the mirrors, that me who's in that mirror, the reflection, just cease to exist, but I'm still here and all the others are still there. So it's described that there's one super soul, which is Karana Kasai Vishnu. He expands as the super soul in all the universes as Garbhoda Kasai Vishnu. And that Garbhoda Kasai Vishnu expands as the super soul in everyone's heart and in between every atom as Kshiroda Kasai Vishnu. They're the same person, just expanding for different functions. So as long as you have a material body, that Kshiroda Kasai Vishnu will be with you forever. One body after another. As soon as you leave and you become Krishna conscious and you leave back to the spiritual world, then that Kshiroda Kasai Vishnu unmanifests like you broke that mirror, but he's still existing in the creation. In relation to you, he unmanifests and you're back in the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, there is no super soul. Krishna is there personally. So that's what happens to the super soul. At the time of death, if you're not going back to the spiritual world and you basically still in this material world and you're going to get another body, then the super soul will continue with you as a friend and companion, waiting for you to turn towards him. So he will just come with you. He doesn't get impacted because he is transcendental, but he is with you as a companion. But I hope that explains a little. Bhavana Prabhu says, last section explained well the topic on humility. I did not understand until this last section where Bhishmadev explains the nature of his disqualification, thus his appreciation of the appearance of the Lord at his last moment before he gave up the body. It's amazing how within his power to leave the body and still awaits to see the Lord. Very humble state, yes. He didn't think I can leave at any time, so I don't need any situation. I'm perfect. I'm pure devotee. No. It's one of the qualities of progress. See, when you just starting spiritual life, you just beginning spiritual life 1% and you think you are 100. Somebody who's at 100%, he's 100 and is thinking he's at 1. This is the paradox on the spiritual journey. Therefore, someone who is at 1% thinking is 100, as he progresses, he slowly realizes, actually, I'm not 100, I'm 90. No, actually I'm 80. Actually, no, I'm 70. No, I'm 50. No, I'm actually 40. No, I'm 30. Actually, I'm 10. Actually, I'm not advanced. So as he advances, he actually begins to think more and more that he's disqualified. That disqualification, that humility, that I'm disqualified, that I need mercy, that I need help, attracts Krishna. You see Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami signed, unfortunate beggar. Most unfortunate beggar. He didn't think, most qualified, Bhaktivedanta Swami. No. This is the consciousness of somebody who's pure. Veresh Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Bhishmadev thoughts of being unqualified seems justified as he was on the opposing side of the Supreme Lord and Pandavas, actually wanting to kill them. What about his karma and punishment for this error of judgment in behavior and accompanied consciousness? So, Veresh Prabhu, Bhishma Dev is not on the wrong side. Bhishma Dev is perfectly positioned to where Krishna wants him to be. You are perceiving he's on the wrong side, and that perception is incorrect. And to correct that perception, Krishna arranged this canto in the Bhagavatam, this chapter in the Bhagavatam, just to reveal so that we don't make that mistake. Bhishma Dev's relationship with Krishna, his rasa with Krishna. Krishna says, Bhishma Dev, I like you to be on that side. So be it, my Lord. Krishna is the director. Bhishma Dev is a Mahajan. He will do whatever Krishna wants. And we see, if he was on the wrong side, then how can Krishna appear to him? If he was on the wrong side, how can he go back to the spiritual world? If he was on the wrong side, how can he even instruct Yudhishthira Maharaj on Dharma? Krishna is revealing through this chapter, he was not on the wrong side. He was exactly where I wanted him to be. And he was rendering the service so wonderfully. And we're going to see the glimpse, we're going to get a glimpse of this when we cover his prayers. We'll see that exchange and that rasa cycle come. So he had no contamination. And Krishna used him to teach many lessons. So for example, Krishna used him to teach the lesson of eating karmi grains as one of the lessons. So like that, Bhishma Dev was used, like pure devotees of the Lord, Krishna uses them to teach different lessons. Bafana says, it is amazing how today's lecture revealed end point of death and beginning of life at birth. And that is we born to prepare for leaving this body auspiciously. Yes, we are not born in this world to die. That is why you see Prabhupada when he's giving his talk, he says birth, death, disease, and old age, these are the 4 problems. And really, out of these 4 problems, there's 2 problems, birth and death. Because in between birth and death is disease and old age. So if I can cure birth and death, then I solve the problem. Now, out of these 2, birth and death, which is the most important? Death, because death dictates birth. So if I can solve death, I solve the birth, I solve disease, and I solve old age. And Prabhupada said, I have the formula. How? Go to that place where there is no death. And if I go to that place where there is no death, then there's no birth. And if there's no death, there's no birth and death, then there's no old age and disease. That was Prabhupada's formula. Therefore, Prabhupada was bold to say, I can solve these 4 problems, nobody else. Because they don't have the solution. Prabhupada gave the solution. It's so amazing how you explain that whatever we do is accountable for at the last hour of passing on. Therefore, how it's so crucial to dovetail all activities in Krishna consciousness so that at the end can achieve at least the mercy of Srila Prabhupada 75%. Yes. Arjuna was a warrior. Yet Krishna told him, shoot and think of me. So we have to act and always try to see, am I doing something that's connecting to Krishna? Am I engaging in activities that are related, empowering, serving, facilitating my Krishna consciousness? If yes, then that is helping me on my journey and my destination. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, kindly explain what happens in these scenarios. Animal, plant, etc. leaving the body. Animal, plant, etc. leaving the body but had contact with Krishna Prasadam, holy name. The human leaving body. Human leaving body but had contact with Krishna Prasad, holy name. Devotee leaving body but not 100%. And devotee leaving body and is 100% perfect. Okay, briefly. So first one, animal, plants, living body. When a human being leaves his body, his mind is fully conscious and active. And as Bhagavad Gita chapter 8 says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajate ante kalevaram. Whatever you think of, that state you attain without fail. So that's human body. Somebody who's a human being leaving his body. He's not connected to Krishna. All that happens is whatever he thinks of, which means a human being leaving his body is not a devotee. All that happens is his life goes in reverse. Besides, there's a lot that happens. Okay, I'm not going to go into the details as I explained in terms of the pain, the suffering, etc. But his life goes in reverse like a slideshow and locks on that which is most attached to. And that state he attains without fail. Next life, that's his destination. There's obviously punishment, etc. that happens, but that's his destination. With a plant or animal, what happens at a time of death is the super soul switches off the mind. And when the super soul switches off the mind, they cannot think of their past. There's no slideshow for animal or plant. And because there's no slideshow, their mind is blank. The super soul, understanding their species or the plant. This is plant number 101. Next level, plant number 102. Immediately they get plant number 102. Animal, 600 or 6,000 or 1 million. Right? You're on 1 million species. Remember, there's 8.4 million species, starting from aquatics right to beasts. So from the Indo-Groper germ right to the species. So if you animal 1 million, then your mind becomes blank. Super soul says, right, 1 million and 1. That's your next body. And you go into the body. Right? There may be karma involved, etc. But in terms of destination, that's what happens at the time of death. So animal and plant leaving the body, it's blank. You go to the next level, next species. Animal plants leaving the body, but had in contact with Krishna Prasad. So holy name. For example, we take a flower. Now, when you take a flower and you offer that flower to Krishna, that flower becomes blessed. That tree becomes blessed. The person who watered the flower, watered that plant becomes blessed. The person who purchased the flower becomes blessed. The person who sold you the flower becomes blessed. The person who transported the flower becomes blessed. Everyone that's in contact with that flower is blessed. And that plant will skip all its life, all the numbers, 101, 102, 103, 104, whatever, and get a human birth. Next life. If they have the holy name, they have prasadam, they skip to human form of life. Then we come to the human body, human living, I already explained. A human living but had contact with Krishna Prasad, they get sukriti, devotional sukriti, piety, which means because they had prasad, Prabhupada said that if one, because remember, you can get exposed to Krishna consciousness. That exposure in different forms gives you sukriti, devotional, bhakti sukriti, devotional credits. That devotional credits then gives you a human form so that you can now come in contact with devotees in the future. It facilitates your progress in Krishna consciousness. You are actually going to take birth as a human being right next to a temple. You may even take birth according to your consciousness as a dog because you thought of your poodle, right? Remember, as a human being, you think of a poodle. Now you took prasad, you came to the temple, we gave you some prasad, you ate the prasad and you also fed your poodle, which you love. At the time of death, you thought of your poodle. So now you become a poodle, but you become a poodle next to a temple where there are devotees. Or in a devotee's house. Now you get halwa every day. And now when you get halwa every day and you die, now you can become a devotee. So this is how evolution works. Then a devotee leaving body, but not 100%. Same thing. If you perfect your life at 50, Krishna gives you the opportunity now to continue with 51 in a devotee family. Prabhupada said, if you have material desires, you go to heavenly planets, you enjoy, and you come back. But if you're a sincere devotee, Krishna gives you a devotee family and you continue from there. And a devotee leaving his body, but is 100% perfect, goes back to the spiritual worlds. Or to where Krishna wants him to serve, because he's perfect. He's transcended material life. Nonetheless, thanks for the answer, Prabhu. As you were speaking about humility, it makes sense that the more humility you have, the more you depend on Krishna and more mercy of Krishna. This the Vedic teaching. We need to be 100% dependent on Krishna in all respects. Yes. Because if you're proud, I don't need, I'm great. Then yes, Krishna will show you how great you are. Bhafana Prabhu says, Srila Prabhupada is fascinating. Bhafana Prabhu, just consider, if Prabhupada is so fascinating, just through his books, if he's so fascinating. Imagine meeting Prabhupada face to face. How fascinating that will be. And being with him and serving with him. That's what we should be aspiring for. And at the same time, Prabhupada said, the best part of me is in my books. Hemlata says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, we know that Bhishma was an exalted devotee, but when I see the picture where Krishna is taking the wheel to kill him, I get bewildered. What if Krishna becomes so angry with him? So I'm not going to speak about that. Hemlata, we're going to speak about that next week. Bhishma is going to speak about that in his prayers. So I'm going to leave that for next week. Bhavana Prabhu said, Srila Prabhupada is a fascinating sociologist. One can see how he explains the organization of the society, 1926, and how without such structured society is doomed, as we see in today's governance, that leaders are overlapping, if not in confused occupational activities, causing more conflict and quarrel. I perfectly agree. See, Krishna consciousness is a perfect science to give perfect happiness to every living being in material world. And therefore you see Prabhupada was able to give Bhagavatam and the philosophy of Krishna consciousness to help every person on every level in every part of society, no matter where they are. And we have a great duty. We may not be able to assist in every regard, but each one of us has certain abilities and capacities. Remember, I talked about adding value to yourself so that you can add value to Prabhupada's mission. What can you do that you can master? If you like making garlands, then just don't, be a garland maker. No, be an expert garland maker. Now, you may not be able to be an expert garland maker in 1 week, but try to upskill yourself more and more every week, every time, so that this way you are improving your garland making skills. You are now adding more value to Prabhupada's mission and service to Krishna, and others can be coached by you. In this way, do not stop learning. And different devotees will pick up different aspects of Prabhupada's mission and be able to render that service, depending on what resonates. Right? And as our Prabhupada said, we need many servants to establish Krishna consciousness, because it's such a vast portfolio of services that we can embrace and render for Srila Prabhupada. And all for the welfare of all living beings. Why? So that they can be happily situated at the lotus feet of Krishna. We will stop here. Thank you very much for all your comments and feedback. We will continue next week with the beautiful prayers of Bhishma Dev. Kwantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Bhishma Dev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Upramanande, Hari Hari Bol.